Since 2017, 150,000 farms have shut down. Working farmland has been reduced by 21 million acres. The system has been crippling the remaining farmers, forcing some to adopt nefarious farming techniques, like pumping hormones and other performance-enhancing drugs into their cows so they can survive in crammed feedlots. Or the farmers are forced to jump ship and sell to land-hoarding, profit-chasing agricultural oligarchies, who use their billions of dollars to crush the competition and increase your family's dependence on their manufactured food. What could possibly go wrong? The family farm will soon be a thing of the past, unless you do something. You can. That's why there's From the Farm, an industry-disrupting platform that connects consumers directly with local farmers, which means you can buy fresh, non-factory farm food, and you'll know exactly where your food came from and how it was raised. For the first time in nearly 100 years, independent farms will have a way to not only survive, but thrive. From the Farm was founded by AJ Richards, an active homesteader, and Brooke, a CrossFit Games athlete and an Amazonian warrior in the movies Wonder Woman and Justice League. She clearly has a passion for healthy food and a healthy lifestyle. And since both AJ and Brooke come from generations of ranchers and farmers, they know what they're talking about. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision. It's an investment into our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.
What's up, Brooke?
What's up, AJ?
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm a little tired, but you know what? I think I'm at the point where I might as well just stop even saying I'm tired. That's like it's an everyday thing. Yeah. I'm tired.
Yeah. I often see the time that you send me videos on Instagram, and I'm like, damn, girl, you gotta get some sleep.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem. But people are like, bro, what time do you go to bed? Well, it depends. I like to get in bed early.
Yeah.
Issue is, I'm usually, there's a lot to do with like hormones and, my brain. I'm not the only person that has these problems.
Yep.
But I'm like tired early in the day. When I say early, I'm like 1 o'clock. I'm like, unless I'm doing something. If I'm like working on something or I'm at the ranch, then but if I'm doing computer work, we're on a lot of calls all day, that just is like drains me.
Mm-hmm.
But then nighttime comes, have dinner, and I come alive.
Oh yeah. You're like, come on.
Yeah. And then the problem too is like,
you froze. That's a very solid pondering face while you're frozen there. I'll give you a second to. Oh, there you go. You froze for a second.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Nighttime, like when I'm getting in bed, it's almost like that's when I have like me time.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Totally get that.
But no, I'm not tired because I don't sleep at night. I'm tired because I'm just tired every day.
Yeah.
Same time of day. I wake up in the morning feeling great.
Yeah. Good. Ready to rock.
Unless if I wake up really early and I try to go back to sleep because it's like, you got to get those hours in, right? I don't think that I'm like the type of person that needs like that longer amount of time of sleep. In fact, I pay for it the rest of the day. If I go back to sleep at like 5 a.m., 5:30, and I'll sleep to like 7, I will be tired all day. From the moment I wake up, tired all day. It really makes me mad.
I'm the same with naps. If I take a nap, I'm screwed. If I get up after a nap, no way. I just got to keep rolling through.
Mm-hmm.
But cool. Well, welcome everybody. You all are the real ones. And if you have to bail, we get it. But it's Super Bowl Sunday and Brooke and I just don't give two craps. So here we are rolling with y'all. We missed you last week. Maybe the couple of weeks we've been pretty busy, but we're glad you're here with us. Today we're going to be discussing our food supply chain as it sits now a little bit, but then we're going to focus on food victory gardens, growing your own food and why you would want to do that, or especially right now. And also food preservation. So we're pretty excited to jump into this with you guys. And you'll see through as we grow and evolve with From the Farm, we're going to have people coming on that are experts. They're going to help you really dial this in. So But the reason we wanted to talk about this is because, the whole purpose that you and I are doing here, Brooke, is to try to help prepare our people for, to be sovereign for themselves, to have their own food preservation, and to have, shake the hand that feeds you. The whole purpose of that slogan is, if you know your farmer and rancher, then you're going to have food. And so that this just all falls under our mission and our vision here at From the Farm. And so with what's going on in the country, I'm going to share this graphic real quick. This is these are the real numbers of where we're at with cattle as of January of last year, and it's not much better. And so you can see from 99, we had almost 100 million head of cattle. These are just beef cows. It's not dairy cows. And you see this roller coaster ride we're on. And this reflects the power that these big four, this is beef specifically, produce. You have numbers for produce and all these other things, but Brooke and I are more familiar with beef, but these seem to follow the trend of the power that the big four are taking. When we say big four, we're talking JBS, Cargill, National Beef, which has been bought by Morfrig, and Tyson. And for those that don't know, JBS and Morfrig are Brazilian-owned companies. So 85% of the meat we consume in America come from 4 companies, and 2 of them are foreign-owned. And as we see that grow, we see these cattle numbers going all over the place. This is an easier breakdown from Farm Bureau of what those numbers look like for the person that's really interested. Like total inventory, we're sitting right here. Then they break it down into the different, beef cows, heifers, specifics here. Point is, we don't have very many. And when you consider that it takes 1 full beef to feed a family of 4 for a year, and we only have 87 million of those left and 320 million people in America, it's not a good place to be. So what do you think? What's your thoughts on that, Brooke?
Honestly, I think that, for one, I think it's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right. We shouldn't even have to give you more info to try and convince you. When I say you, viewer, listener, whatever.
Yeah.
I personally think you should hear those numbers and be like, whoa, that can't be good.
Yeah.
Right? It's I shouldn't have to explain. But if you need to look at it from a different perspective too, is thinking about the fact that, well, AJ, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
How did it make you feel knowing that your country, our country, is a consumer country? How does it make you feel? Just the idea, let's put all the other stuff, whatever. How does it make you feel to think that your country and understanding, your family, our families, things, all that, and then knowing the history and all the amazing people that are from here, built our country, been a part of huge important events or whatever it is, all these hardworking Americans. But now in 2025, we're not really known as a country that creates or is really innovative per se. That's producing, creating, manufacturing. We're a consumer country.
Yep.
And that's how we're seen on the map too. Is we're just a bunch of people that just consume.
Yeah, kind of. It makes me feel sad that we've lost our way.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. I've seen documentaries about the volumes of Temu clothing that gets shipped to other countries, and it just sits in these massive mounds because you could buy a $10 shirt that was junk and you wore it a few times and then you threw it away.
That's a whole nother conversation too that we've never even talked about. But the fact they call it quick fashion.
Yep.
This quick fashion culture, which is what we're in. If you think about, I follow different fashion bloggers because I need ideas.
Yeah.
But at the rate at which a fashion blogger or influencer, whatever, they are every new season, they've basically their business is built on, and this is not a jab at anyone like that. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you.
Yeah.
But just thinking about it bird's eye view, every season, every year, and maybe even a couple times during a season, they are going out with the old and buying new. They partner with different brands. They send them all these new clothes. They do their photos, their videos. They wouldn't have the following or like the job, I guess, that they do, like being able to just do fashion, or whether it's like, you know, also that's like decorating your house. It's like, there's so much money to be made in consuming yourself and then showing it to other consumers. So now they can see you, and then they can have direct links to these items. But at the rate that these, you know, men and women are kind of going through, and it's not necessarily them, right? It's like the companies themselves, they're pumping out so much stuff. I mean, of course we've got mounds of clothes, mounds of items that no one's using. No one, it's almost as if our culture, we live in a culture where no one, and I can speak for myself, except for like, this is really old, you know, like I have certain things that I will wear them until my dad's like, you throw those pants away. You know, like my permanently dirty work jeans. But now I see, so funny. My dad gives me crap all the time. Like, don't wipe it on your pants. I'm like, these are work pants. Like, yeah, these are permanently dirty because Wrangler decides to get rid of all their best items. And now I can't find good jeans anymore. And then I saw an ad. I think it was like Free People, and they're selling jeans that look dirty. And I'm like, I got them. These are permanently dirty jeans. But at the rate at which there's these new styles and new things, it's like it controls, and then we're all consumers, right? Like, oh, we're on here. I need this. And that's true. And I speak for myself too. Like, they're the monster, but we're what keeps
We're feeding it.
We're feeding it.
And
it's addicting. It's like you want to have like the new cool pants or shirts or shoes, or, you know.
I remember we were talking to a friend, you and I were talking to a friend, and she was interviewing her grandmother before she passed away. You know, remember it was Nicole, and she asked her about garbage. What did you guys do for garbage back then? And she looked at her and said, we didn't have garbage. You know, like, how crazy is that thought? And I've followed in the past some zero waste communities before, and I admire the heck out of those folks. I would really like to figure out how to do that. And there's people out there that are working really hard to not be the consumer, to not feed that beast, and to not have waste, to not be throwing trash out all the time. And I wish I could say that in my house, and we're not there yet. And we talk about waste too with food. We waste like 40% of the food we grow. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, I think that really it's just like, it's unfortunate, like what you said, because, you know, even just back when our parents were younger, even like when I wasn't around and I'm the youngest, and my siblings were around, like they did things so much different than they did when I was around, and then growing up to where I can like remember, you know, certain things. And like, even just with that, it's like not having a bunch of waste and reusing, and it's like kind of like saving money, but it's also, by doing that, you're using better products or better containers, right? Like, we used to have a lot more drinks that were in glass bottles. You don't no more. And you could reuse them.
Exactly.
And you could reuse them for other things at your house, or, you know, but we're in the product of our environment. And it's like, it is difficult to make those changes because you can't just find something locally like, oh yeah, here we go. It's like you actually have to like search online, or you got to order the container, or you have to do more legwork in order for you to be living in a way that could be no waste.
Right.
Which is crazy.
So crazy.
It's like, man, you got to try so hard to do no waste.
You have to try, where in the past, like, you didn't have a choice. There was just nothing to waste. Well, let's jump into this segment so we can figure out how to not waste so much in our food. I mean, we're going to talk about the Victory Gardens of World War II and why we think that's a movement that we have to bring back right away. I mean, we're in the winter. This winter's about to end. And my hope is, through this conversation, people are going to hear this and start planning even some sort of small garden, even if they weren't. I don't care if you got a big pot of soil on your deck. grow a tomato bush. If that's all you do, start there. Grow one tomato plant and get the confidence, but start somewhere. So, my grandpa, speaking of Victory Gardens of World War II and waste, my dad told me that one of the things that bothered him the most when he got home from the war was observing the trend towards more wastefulness. He just couldn't believe it and was kind of beside himself. So I'm going to play this clip and then we'll get into it. This first one, we're going to go into Victory Gardens and what that means and why it matters.
Of all the weapons the United Nations are using to win this war, food is among the most important. Food to keep our husky young fighting men fit. Food to give them the strength to battle for freedom. But in addition to food that must go to the warrior at the front, there must be food for the worker at home. The man who makes the guns and ships and planes and tanks that will bring us the final victory. Then there must be food for all the rest of us who are doing our part to win the war by keeping fit, able, and healthy so that we can work harder, longer, and better at whatever our daily tasks may be. Until this war began, we in America were blessed with an abundance of food. Our land was rich with all the treasures of vegetables, fruits, and grain, and meat that we could desire. None of us needed to give a second thought to the possibility that there might be a scarcity of any food. But today, out of our abundance, we must feed many mouths. Now, half the civilized world looks to America to save it from starvation and death with a never-ceasing flow of food. To plant that food, to cultivate it, harvest it, transport it across the nation, and across the seas is a task that today taxes to the utmost our facilities of manpower and transportation. Yet this vital flow of food for freedom dare not, must not be stopped. In spite of sunken ships and trains that must carry steel, oil, coal, and lumber, instead of food, in spite of every obstacle, we must feed our fighting men, our allies, and ourselves if we are to win the war and right the peace. This, then, is a challenge to every loyal American citizen. What can we do to help win the war with food? The answer to that challenge comes from Washington, from the Office of Civilian Defense. Victory Gardens. That's the answer. We can grow food for victory in our own backyards, and even in vacant lots, where perhaps only weeds flourished before. Because so long as this war lasts, great quantities of food must be grown. Anywhere and everywhere we can find good soil to nourish the seeds, good soil and sunshine to make them grow. Still, it takes more than earth and sun to produce the right kind of victory garden. It requires a knowledge of how to plan and tend it, and a willingness to work it with interest and enthusiasm. Our local Office of Civilian Defense can tell us much we need to know on how to plan a victory garden. From garden magazines and garden advertising, we can get the advice of professional experts on how to derive the most from backyard planting. And scores of seed and nursery houses can supply us with other vital gardening information. Then, each spring, we can start our gardens with good seeds. Plant them in rich, well-tilled soil, away from shadowing houses or trees, out in the open, where they can be warmed by life-giving sunshine. And as our gardens grow, they must be regularly cared for, faithfully weeded from planting to harvest. Enriched, perhaps, with one of the magic plant foods science has given us, rigidly protected from insects and plant-killing disease, and watered, of course, because Mother Earth gets thirsty now and then. Yes, For the duration, at least, it's our job to grow food for our own tables and free the nation's farm produce for the men at the front and our allies across the seas. Millions of Americans have done, are doing, and will do just that.
So, very interesting. Now, there's a couple things in there that I don't necessarily that are new to the agriculture space, and it's interesting. I hope to have a guest on in the future that talks about the rise of chemical agriculture and how his great-grandfather, or his grandfather was actually connected to DC after the war, and how this whole get bigger, get out movement started. But what's interesting is they talk about why they had to get the community involved, and they talked about the rail system and the labor being short, and so they encourage these victory gardens because labor shortages and people overseas. And so when they needed more people to grow food, they called on their communities, and they also didn't have any space on the rail or the trucks because it was filled with all the needs of the war. And so they were promoting hyper local food systems. Grow your community's food right there in the empty lot next door, which is, what we're really trying to promote here is this food production in the neighborhoods where it needs to be consumed. So we're not doing that. And when you look at this, something that I found interesting as I was preparing for this call, I came across this little writing here. By late 1942, food and labor shortages made Victory Gardens a necessity rather than simply a patriotic moral booster. In early 1943, the USDA highlighted in publications the litany of challenges that faced the nation: labor and machinery shortages, overloaded railroads and restricted motor transport that interfered with the distribution, an inadequate supply of labor, steel, tin, and all required Americans to pull together. When I read that, I'm like, that sounds like 2025. And we're not even in a kinetic war. So we're not even in a kinetic war, and this already sounds like what we should be doing. But I also found it interesting as I think about what we're hearing from our Washington of our era: crickets. They expect us to just rely on the big food, big ag, big corporations. Oh, they got you. Let's put all our faith in them. Don't worry about it. You all keep going on living your consumer lives, but don't contribute because these guys will handle it. That's the wrong approach, in my opinion. And I think many would agree, but it's fascinating. That's where we are.
It's definitely the wrong approach.
Yeah.
But it's also the easy way out.
Yes.
But what, I think that, the saying, like, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Yep.
I think that it's really easy to, especially like just today, because we haven't, prior to our podcast, I've just been reading through some of like my family history.
Oh, nice.
And stories of, because, like yours, settled here.
Yep.
And it's just, everyone had to be involved.
Yes.
And you had to work, and the kids worked, and you helped, and everybody helped.
Yep.
And that's the way that it was. Like my, today, you don't have to. And
right.
but we never really had to, like, unless your family, had some sort of family project, whether it was even just maybe when dad's working outside, we're all doing yard work. If we're doing yard work, we're all doing yard work.
Yeah.
If today's house cleaning day, we're all cleaning the house, right? But beyond that, I feel like, at least for me, and then obviously up to today's day and age, besides chores.
There's nothing else.
Yeah. And I think, and some people probably never really had chores. Like maybe you grew up in a family where either really well off and wealthy, and you never really had to do anything yourself because you had house cleaners that came and helped keep up, or maybe your mom took care of it or whatever, right? Like it would be difficult to go from that mindset or how you grew up, like today, if you've never had something in your past that you've experienced where you needed to be a part of a bigger group. You needed to help one another. If you've never experienced that firsthand, it could be a little bit weird to almost buy into this mindset. But the reality is like, it is better to have and not need than need and not have. And we always need community.
Yeah.
We always need community.
Yep.
And, looking at like Victory Gardens, I could, safely assume that, many people would probably think like, yeah, but that was like in the past. Like we don't live like we're better now. We're smarter now. Like so many people actually think like we're smarter today. I 100% disagree.
Yeah.
Like I fully disagree.
Yeah.
Especially even more so now because the internet, ChatGPT, all of this tech that like it actually makes you not have to think at all. You don't have to retain information at all. It's like when I was younger, how did I memorize everyone's phone number?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
My grandma's both sides, friends. Like we had my mom's work phone, my dad's work phone, my home phone. It's like you could remember all these things, and you get older and it's like, dang.
Yeah.
Like if I had to try, but you don't have to. That's things like you don't have to. When you don't have to, you lose that ability. And yes, it is 2025. No, it's not like in like the 1940s or like, like 1860 or because I'm looking at those dates. No, it's not that year. It's not that year. It is 2025. We are technologically, I was gonna say we're more advanced, technologically more advanced.
There you go. Yeah.
But during, all the toilet paper shortages, you've got egg shortages, you've got milk shortages. Wonder why there's no dairy.
Yeah.
But we're having all these shortages. And my first, at least for me, it's like my first response or thought process is like, oh, we need to just get all those things and do it ourselves.
Yep.
Very doable. You just have to do it. Yep. Okay, there's egg shortages, or you can't get eggs here. Now the prices are all going up. Like, let's not complain about it because you can produce those for yourself. Like, we don't need to complain about it. We can come together and fix it in our little area, our neighborhood. We could delegate certain things, and we could come together and have milk and have eggs and have a garden and have you could have like a cow share that you collectively get it processed, or maybe if there's a point where you can't get it processed, you could process it.
Yep.
You could do all of that for yourself. And I think that we need we need collectively to come together and not be afraid of the hard work and be way more excited about the hard work. At least it's something that you get to keep. You did the hard work, and that's to be very proud of and to take pride in. And it feels good to not need someone else. Like, it feels good in a situation when something's going awry. It's so for instance, like in a food, disruption in supply chain. So we don't have, nothing can get here, right? The trucks can't get here. And so we have everything dwindling on the shelves. It feels really bad to not be able to almost like have your hands tied.
Yeah.
To not be, at least for me, it's like to not be able to like know what step can I take right now to move in the direction that's going to, going to better my situation.
Yep.
And if I don't have that, because my mind is basically locked in on the fact where it's like, I'm not even considering the reality, like, oh, I can do it myself, or we can do it. I don't have to wait I don't need to get online or whatever and just be angry. Like, where's the food? And the store shelves are empty and you got to fix this. It's like, everyone is doing that. We all want to like blame somebody, and there are people to blame, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Yep.
We've talked about it before, where it's not our fault, but it is our responsibility.
Exactly.
And it's better to have and not need than to need and not have.
Yep.
And that's even within like your mindset. It's better to have the understanding, the knowledge, standing outside of yourself, or like kind of trying to get a bird's eye view objectively, not with like placing blame or trying to find like whose fault it is why we don't have food in our grocery store. No, the reality is this. Okay, I'm one person. There are so many people. Everyone needs food, and we can't get our food. What can I do? Because if I sit and get stuck in that cycle of just complaining and bitching, which feels good, and that's what happens. Is like, once you get into that and you get all, kind of amped up or on a little soapbox, and it's like, who to point your fingers at. It's like, you'll spend all this time pointing and yelling. And all that time you could have been like, I mean, you kind of screwed us, but I'm going to go this way now.
Yeah.
There's no point in me continuing to talk about how you screwed us over. You screwed us. This is your fault. It's your fault.
Yep.
You're just wasting time. It's like you're running out of time.
Yeah.
You know, where you can just like acknowledge it, like you recognize it. There's no point in like dwelling on it and spiraling where you're actually wasting time. Instead, you could help everyone around you, whether it's your neighborhood or your community or just in your family. Okay, we get it. This person sucks, or this industry sucks, or this organization sucks. We can actually do this for ourselves. What do we need? Okay, where do we get it? You can actually create steps, immediate steps to take to be in a better situation. And it gives you that food sovereignty. And there's never a time where it's a bad idea to have food sovereignty.
Never.
It's just, there's never a time.
No, like you said earlier, it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. You're not going to be mad that you didn't have to open up your your preserved canned food because you didn't need it. But I promise you, the more of that you build in storage, the more you'll find that, holy cow, I'm way less, without even realizing, I've got way less to worry about. I'm way less stressed because we're good. My family's good. And I think on the working side, like you're saying, we got tricked. We got pulled into the matrix with comfort and convenience and all of these things. And that comfort and convenience, as more of that's been promoted, mental health is on the rise, the lack of mental health, right? And so people find when they finally break out of the matrix and they go put in a hard damn day's work and they're sweating and they've got cuts on their knuckles or whatever, you go to bed exhausted and also feeling really accomplished, and you will see your mental health improve. And then there's the confidence. Look what I did,
And those are the nights when you have like you get the best rest.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like you earned the sleep, but like
yeah,
you've done exactly what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You went out and you worked, and you're exhausted, but I think one of the most beautiful things, and my dad always says it, like why he loves, well, all of our ranching stuff, but specifically when he was talking about our hayfield. And it's so much work. It's a huge pain in the ass. You got to rotate crops. It's very hard ground where we are. There's a big, beautiful, all of these solar panels that are across the way because for California, property. Thanks for nothing. That I am absolutely convinced, the more research that we've done, is having that in an area that already doesn't get a lot of rainfall, you're screwing us.
Oh yeah, for sure. The heat coming off the top
and
of
the reflection. Yep. There's a lot of issues and potential issues when working the ground where we are from, right?
Yeah.
But my dad, it's like there's a lot of problems sometimes and water leaks, and we're fixing sprinklers and we're doing this, and it's constant. It is constant fixing, trying to triage which problems can we address this year. But for him, he says, when he loves to just sit and watch the hay come up and just look at the hayfield, and it's for him, and he's like, because I did that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work and a lot of headaches, but at the end of the day, start to finish, we worked the ground. He planted the seed, watered it, took care of it, and it's coming up. And now that's going to feed our cattle. That's going to feed our horses. That's going to be something that he can, offer to friends, other people that actually don't have a hayfield. They have to go and purchase it for their animals. It's like, it feels good. It feels good to work really hard on something and kind of give it your blood, sweat, and tears, and then have it come to fruition.
Yeah.
It's very gratifying.
It was funny when we were shooting the video and they're like, can you pull one of those? Can you pull some hay out of the ground? And you're like, no. You know how hard we work to plant this? I'm not pulling.
I forgot about that.
I'm not pulling our sprouting hay out of my soil.
Yeah. I was like, sorry, that's going to be a no.
Yeah. And they're like, just one. And you're like, no,
but here I'll find something else on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So all you're looking for is B-roll. Let me go pull a weed.
Yeah. A thistle. Dig a thistle up.
So in this topic of Victory Gardens, what we're trying to encourage you is that no matter where you're at and what kind of space you have, consider growing some of your own food. And even if you just pick one crop, you might be in an apartment and you get an indoor tower garden. If you pick one crop, if you don't need everything you're growing, you now have something you might even be able to barter for something else. And so just taking responsibility for your own needs, there's never a wrong time to do that. We have an affiliate partner with Survival Garden Seeds. They do heirloom seeds, and a lot of people don't know what that means. So I want to talk about that
just
a little
in
bit.
case, because you cut out for me.
Oh.
Just say the name of that company one more time, just in case it cut out for everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Survival Garden Seeds, and I have a link to that in the post we did to tell you about this podcast, and then when this goes onto YouTube, the link will be there as well. So Survival Garden Seeds, they do heirloom seeds. They're out of Utah, and heirloom is important because many people may not know that the seeds that are sold by mass in places like Walmart, those are not heirloom seeds. Those have been genetically modified, which means when they grow, you most likely cannot harvest the seeds from the fruit to then propagate next year's crop. That's what happened. You didn't just have Walmart to run to in 1942 to grab next season's seeds. Your seeds came from a portion that you harvested from last year's crop so you could grow again. And a lot of people are going to be surprised that don't know that. If things go bad, they might be thinking, oh, no worries. I got a box full of different seed varieties. Okay, that's good for one season. You run out and you might think, I'll just harvest them. And you open up that tomato and there are no seeds in the tomato. Or like seedless watermelon.
Like a seed. I was going to say that.
Yeah, like that's not natural. Seedless watermelon. Are that's
seedless grapes.
Yeah, nature's goal is to propagate and reproduce. Like that's what we're here to do, is to replenish the earth. And when you can't because you genetically modified something so it doesn't produce the seed for the next generation, you're going to be screwed if you don't know that. So Survival Garden Seeds are great people. I bought from them years ago, which is why when we were really leaning down this path of From the Farm, we met them at the Modern Homesteading Conference, and that was pretty neat. And they're like, yeah, we'd love to work with you guys. So yeah, being able to grow and produce your own food in whatever kind of space you have is really smart. We also have an affiliate partner with Food Forest Abundance, and Food Forest Abundance, they've got 850 plots around the globe. Most of them are in the US, but it's kind of like hiring a landscape architect. And we're doing some videos right now with them to share with you guys as we release these, but it's like hiring a landscape architect, but their entire focus is around landscape design for food production. And so we're going to do a 1/4 acre food plot on our homestead here, but they rolled out a new program that was just garden boxes done in the same model and the same method, which is so great for the people that are interested, because what they're doing is they're putting together companion plants that support each other. So as you're growing certain crops, you need to fix nitrogen levels and so forth in the soil. And so you have companion plants that are good for nitrogen. They're nitrogen fixing plants. And so they help you put all these things together so you don't need to know it, and they guide you through it so that you can actually produce your own food. So if you've got a lawn, if you go look up the history of lawns, you'll go down a rabbit hole, and you should. But I always advocate tear your lawn out and produce food. Like, if you're not going to produce food, tear your lawn out and do the natural landscape in the area that's right for that climate, that doesn't need excess water, that can put moisture off in the air to help keep it cool. But consider turning, if not all of your grass, a portion of your grass into food for your family. You'll get more value out of that. So it's interesting. But do you guys grow, you have a garden at the ranch. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yep. And, difficult, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
The critters are,
oh yeah,
they are ruthless.
Yeah, man. The giant tomato worms. Holy moly,
dude.
If you're not on top of those things, they're
the horned worm or whatever.
Horned worm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They look scary.
Yeah. Yeah. They're crazy.
It was so funny. Actually, Gina had sent me a picture of one cause she did a garden and had a friend that came over and did it with her at her house. And it was the first time she'd ever seen one of those. And like sent me a picture of like this thing that was in her garden. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tomato worm.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And I'm like, you never seen one of those?
Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, I was a little kid that was like, we were always out finding like the caterpillars and worms. And you know,
Yep.
put a little salt.
Yeah, on the
Plus,
snails. Yeah. Yeah.
just to
That's
see what
funny.
happened.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's funny.
if you have, yeah, so we did a garden, was the first time, I mean, since I was really little. Me growing up, we always had a family garden up at our Ince family homestead.
Okay.
And so we would get together and we'd all be shucking corn or going
Mm.
and harvesting. But like my mom, when I was really young, and then before I was around, and especially when my parents first got married, and I think my brother was just around, they ate out of the garden every day
Yeah.
because they didn't have money to just like go to the store. And
Mhm.
so, and that's what I mean, like how the ideas, like the stigma around being self-sufficient changed, right? It's no different than like trying to get like all the people out of the rural area and get them into cities. It changed in a way where there's this almost like unspoken, but like this stigma around if you were like eating out of your own garden, if you were, kind of self-producing all your stuff and you weren't going to the store and you didn't have, you didn't get Heinz ketchup or
Yeah.
you didn't have
Yeah.
these certain things, like, oh, you're poor.
Yep.
Like, and
It's
maybe
my house.
homeless, but like that was the stigma around it,
Mhm.
and which is so crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very thankful. We're at this point because we need it more than ever, right? We need to make a change, make a difference, go back to a community focused, self-sufficient, helping one another, growing your own food, steward of the land, going back to this mentality that never left.
Yep.
But as a collective and overall, it totally left. And it was only maintained in the families that were working the ground. And then obviously, then they were the ones that turned into like the monocrops, and
Mhm.
the whole system needed them to mass produce so they
Yep.
could actually keep feeding and keep almost like glamorizing, but like making people enjoy the grocery store and give them more products and more things and more things. And we are at a point now where it's like, well, we don't have things. Some places really don't have a lot of things anymore because of shortages or
Mhm.
supply chain or just the cost to
Yep.
get those items. And so you're seeing like the big flip, the big switch back to what was the normal, the way of life, which was grow a garden,
Yeah.
milk a cow,
Yep.
have chickens,
Yep.
go to your neighbor, ferment your vegetables, can this, and cottage producing. And I love it so much. And we're there, and it's kind of a scary time, but also it's such a good time.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
opportunity to be able to just go back to a
Yeah.
time where things were, in a way, I want to say simpler, but it's not that they were simpler. It's just things were more dependent on yourself,
Yeah.
being a part,
Mhm.
helping, being an active participant in your community
Yeah.
versus just being like a consumer in your community that wants everything handed to them, and you have to keep consuming because the way where everyone's wired now because of the screens and the entertainment and like the constant changing, right? It's like
Mhm.
we don't want to be, no one's bored anymore. And when we're bored, like kids, they're bored and it's like their whole world's ending. I'm bored. Like
Yeah.
I just drove to Disneyland
Yeah.
with my sisters, my mom, and the little kids.
Yeah.
And my little nephew Jax is like, I'm bored. And I'm like, good, dude. Look
Yeah.
out the window. You know
Yeah.
what we did growing up? You looked out the window.
Yep.
You looked at stuff.
We played the A to Z game by looking at road signs and whoever get the alphabet fastest. But one of the things I enjoy about living in Cody, Wyoming, is when we drive to Southern Utah, there's like a good 4-hour chunk of our drive where there is no service. And so it's forced boredom on my children because they're the same. They're just not used to that.
Yeah.
Which is really unsettling because if you can't be with yourself for moments of time, extended moments of time with nothing but your thoughts, and that makes you uneasy, that's not mentally healthy, right? And so, and I have to work on that myself. I've been drawn into this place. Got my first cell phone at 18, and now I'm never without it. And I'm looking for it. Like, if I'm going to go to the bathroom, I ain't going to the bathroom without my cell phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now I'm like conscious, like, wait a minute. You can sit on the throne for a couple of minutes and not need to scroll. Come on, man.
I always want, it's moments like that where I'm like, okay, that seems like a good time to have to clean my email out.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do
something. Because there's never another time of the day where I'm like, you know what I want to do? I want to go through my emails.
Yeah, totally. Yep. That's funny.
No, in fact, if any of you are watching or listening, you're like, Brooke, I emailed you and I never heard back. I'm the worst.
Yeah.
It's like I go through for, in work stuff, and it's painful to get me to have to sit there and focus on email. Like I am not only genetic, like DNA, it's built in me, and obviously because my family, but like I am my best when I am outside, when I am like doing being physical outside and in nature. And if it has to do with either an activity, whether it's like riding bikes or building a fort or like digging in the dirt or whatever, or it's riding horses, it's building fence as an adult, it's driving the tractor, it's plowing the field. That is where I feel my best. I am the most mentally clear. And it's the way life is in our culture brings pure chaos to my brain.
Yep.
ADD brain with the way things are, it's like pure chaos. Like, yeah.
I'm the same way. When I go outside, I need to go outside. And even if I'm just walking the property, but we're a software company. For those of you guys if you don't know who we are, FromTheFarm.org is designed kind of like the Etsy or the Airbnb of local food. So we're working with farmers and ranchers across the nation so that you guys can go right to a trusted website, knowing that we've verified them, that they are family operation, and you can source that without having to worry about if it's a legitimate operation, which is needed right now, because we've actually seen the rise of fraudulent websites that pretend to be farmers and ranchers who actually aren't. So anyway, because of that, that's our work. My challenge now is I go outside because I need it. And then I'm outside. I'm like, you're wasting time. You should be sitting in front of the computer. You have all these other things to do. And so it's like this battle, but I'm like, no, I need to be out here. I'm more effective if I can get this time out in nature, even if it's just 20, 30 minutes to walk around the property and go sit back down. I'm going to be way more effective. So, okay. So if and real quick too, if you guys are listening, this is live and you probably know that, but we also can take questions and comments. So wherever you're watching us at, go ahead and if you have anything, pop it in there, and we can either bring it up or talk about it. But so if people just can't grow, they're you're in a super tiny closet of an apartment in New York, then what can you do? How can you take responsibility and get into that sort of homesteader mindset, right? I can't grow anything, but here I am. Well, one of the things you can do is you buy from your local farmers and ranchers, or source right from a farmer or rancher in your region, get their products to your house, and then you can preserve them. And this is something that concerns me the most. And the reason that we're talking about this is because our government isn't, and they should be. And so Brooke and I are on the mountaintops with a megaphone trying to let you guys know we have some really rough times coming. Like, we have spent the last 5 years zeroing in on this food supply chain, looking at what's happening with our farmers and ranchers, seeing how policy is taking our food sovereignty away from us. So we're seeing things that you guys maybe don't have time to really pay attention to. And we're trying to tell you, you have to start growing no matter what, or preserving. And so that's why we're having this conversation, because nobody else is telling you. Like we said in the beginning, they just want you to believe that the big food giants have it handled for you. Don't worry, Walmart's going to have it. Well, if remember 2021, they didn't have it. You would go into stores and you were either limited on what you could buy, or it was just wiped out in general. And even more recently, some people all over the nation were going in for eggs and couldn't even find eggs. And we're going out, we've got 30 chickens, and it's, dead of winter. We got like 1.5 feet of snow outside right now. So they've slowed down, but we're about ready to freeze dry a few dozen eggs and put them down in our food storage. And then when summer picks up, we're eating we did water glassing. Water glassing is where you can take unwashed eggs and they'll preserve in water with pickling lime. You can preserve them for 12 to 18 months on a shelf in a glass of water, just right like that. And then we'll eat those throughout the winter. And that's what we're eating now. And then the chickens, the slower pace right now just kind of helps offset that. So food preservation, canning, smoking, bottling, all these things. So I'm going to play you another old school video when they were starting to teach and encourage food preservation.
Clothes, they say, make the man. But consider our friend in the tin topcoat. As recently as 500 years ago, he hot-rodded around on a big black charger, rescuing damsels and clobbering dragons and telling such big fibs about it, we still think of knights as giants. They weren't. Even the average man today is taller, stronger, and healthier. One big reason why is because we eat better. We can get our 3 square meals a day the year around. We eat well because we grow better food. Because we can transport and handle food at high speed. But most important of all, we have learned to keep food. Preservation of food has been a problem for man from the very beginning. Even if food was abundant, he couldn't keep it for the lean days. Eventually, man learned to sun-dry food, to smoke it, to salt it, which made salt so important it was an early form of money. It's ironical that yesterday's staples are often today's delicacies. But because few foods could be preserved and primitive methods caused important vitamins to be lost, no one ever had a balanced diet, 3 squares a day, the year round. If food was plentiful, they ate. If not, if the fruits or vegetables were out of season or the hunting bad, they did without. Bread was the staff of life, sometimes appetizer, entree, and dessert, nourishing in its way, but hardly a square meal. An early attempt at food preservation was the use of spices, rosemary, nutmeg, cinnamon, and many others. It was the search for the short spice route which led Columbus to America. But imagine the sailor's diet after a few weeks at sea. Fresh fruits and vegetables gone, the bacon moldy, the flour, well, inhabited. Food was a problem for all who traveled. Armies often spent more time foraging than fighting. The French government offered a prize of 12,000 francs for a safe method of preserving food. And it was won during Napoleon's reign and appropriately by a French chef. His name was Nicolas Appert. The date, 1809, less than 150 years ago. Monsieur Appert's great discovery was that food tightly sealed in a container, then thoroughly heated, would keep for years. Napoleon got the statues, while Appert, having spent all his money perfecting his canning methods, died a poor man. But Appert's monument is infinitely greater. His discovery helped all mankind to eat right, to get their 3 squares a day the year around.
So food preservation and canning. My grandmother growing up, she had one entire room in her basement completely dedicated to floor to ceiling racks of canned and bottled food. And the canned food, they had it like, it was on, they built these shelves on an angle so they could just pull like a nail out of the front and then it would roll forward, they'd pull it out and then everything would just move forward. And it was just, it was incredible. This is mine. We got a ways to go, but we're starting somewhere. So don't that's the thing is I was like, well, I can't do it all. And so you might hesitate because you can't do everything, but you got to start somewhere. We got buckets of beans and rice, more beans, rice, flour, powdered milk. These black and yellow containers are full of freeze-dried food on the left. And then we've got some canned, when we say canned also means bottled, but we have canned goods on the shelf there. One little pro tip I learned from an elder woman, if you see the bottles on the bottom there, that's just water. And the reason we have water in glass jars is because if glass jars are going to take the space on the shelf no matter what, if they're full or empty. And so you might as well store your glass jars full of water. So if you have a water issue, you've got a ton of water ready to be consumed if you need it. So, that's what mine looks like. You get fancier ones or nicer ones that get clear fulled. So that's where we're headed. We have so much we're doing on our homestead. We just have to get started somewhere. And that's kind of that's the message, is just get started somewhere. But at the time of the Victory Gardens, they started teaching and encouraging people to preserve, so that you had it through the lean months, the winter months, like that video said. And they had a lot of campaigns to really get people to get behind the bandwagon of preserving your food that you could grow. And so it's important that we bring back some of these old skills. I think I've said it before, but one of the things that we need to consider, I asked my grandmother, we had this conversation, and she said growing up was really, really hard, but we didn't know any better. It was just what life was. Now she's 90 something years old when she's telling me this, and life had gotten way more comfortable. This was in the 90s. And so I think back to the knowledge that she had, that she grew up with and let go. Now the older folks never let it go. Like my grandma kept gardening until she couldn't physically do it anymore.
That's how my grandparents were. My grandpa, you couldn't stop him from working.
Yep. Yeah.
Like he was going to work until the day he died. And my dad's the exact same way. And my mom.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't mean like go to a 9 to 5. It means physically being out, either hands in dirt, up at the ranch, working, being a grandma, kids. I mean, it's just constant go, go, go. And, it is more, it's just talking about like how hard it was. Right. Mm-hmm. Like I hear stories like from my dad and my mom, even just like of our area here, because what it, through the years as it got more developed. So like my dad would talk about how, he'd go with his buddy and they would ride their bikes to this place. It was like miles and miles.
Yeah.
But there was, they'd go for a walk, they'd go fishing. It'd be an entire day.
Yep.
They'd be gone and they'd come back. But like,
convenience just wasn't even thought about.
Yes. And it's interesting to think about like the idea around like how hard it was, like just hard work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was hard and you had to be involved and you had to help, and everyone had a job to do. And you as a family, you had a job you did, whether it was, helping grandpa with the turkey farm, or it's gathering the eggs, or it's putting them in water jarring them. It's like everyone had a job to do.
Yeah.
But if life got hard, it was like there was never, I can't say never, wasn't alive. It seems as though in a situation like that, where it's hard because of just like the physical things you had to do, you had to be more involved in the process of things in order for them to get done. You had to be more involved with the process of growing food so that you had food. But if you didn't have food, you knew how to have it. You knew how to do it. You knew how to grow it. And that's what you did. We don't have food. we're going to grow.
Yeah.
I can grow a garden.
Yep.
The difference is like today, it may be a more comfortable life because being a consumer and we're very used to like instant gratification. And if we need something, it's like, oh, just quick run to the store. But just life in and of itself, when we think about like, yes, it is more comfortable physically.
Yes.
It's more comfortable. It's not as demanding. It's not as demanding when it comes to your participation in a process in order to get the things that you want, or like food your family needs. But when things are hard today, yes, you still have things that are hard, like physically or whatever, like mowing the lawn or whatever. But it feels as though things become more hard psychologically.
Yeah.
And when it's that, there's not a lot you can do in order to just like fix it.
Yeah.
Like the hard, like choose your hard, right? You've heard that, like, hey, choose your hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the hard back then, which is just being more involved and being a helper and being an active participant of your community or your family, I would take that way over the hard of, you know, all of the heavy metals that are inside my body and probably, and for sure, like cross my blood-brain barrier. And now I'm having issues, or like little kids that like, you got to pull out red, you know, red dye 40, or you got to make sure you get all these things out of their diet, which happens to be in almost everything that they consume, in order for them to just be able to be a calm, collected human.
Yeah.
Right. There's all these things that are like so far out of your control. And when that's hard, it's also very, very, actually very difficult in order to give you relief, because now the quick fix is what? Pharmaceutical drug.
Yep.
And that's a quick fix, but it actually isn't fixing anything. And we're getting further and further away of the ability to have like a quick fix. Like, oh, I'm going to save, what's my quick fix for, I want to have tomatoes next season. I'm just going to save these seeds.
Yeah.
Quick fix. I don't got to buy them. Quick fix. As I'm eating my last tomato, like, oh yeah, hey, we got to get the seeds out of that. Oh yeah. So we can grow it again.
Yep.
But if it's like what our heart is today, it's like therapy.
Yeah.
You got to have money to pay for therapy. You got to it's so much harder.
Yeah.
And it's psychological. And then being stuck in a situation or a reality where, it's not necessarily our fault when it comes to, when we're talking about like, toxins and things that are in our food, especially if you didn't know any better, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of like how fertilizers first came around to be. It was like, well, they didn't know any better. It was like, oh man, you put this on there and whoo, it grows. Yeah. Oh man, that's going to help me out a lot. It's going to relieve my stress. And then fast forward, it's like, oh no, it actually only relieved it for a little while. And now I have so much more stress because the soil's bad.
Yeah.
And how do I come back from this? And how do I pay my bills? And how do I feed my family? It's like all of the quick fixes are actually ruining us.
Yeah, it's like that old video that showed the fertilizer and then the chemical he was spraying. Well, that was real time. If you made that video today, now they have the knowledge to see that was destroying the soil biology and destroying the crops.
Yes, but even I feel like even more so is the reality is this. What the product was, or whatever it was that they're spraying for like pest control.
Mm-hmm.
If we had that product today, we'd be way better off. Because it's even looking at like a ingredient list on, I don't know why I keep thinking like just like a ketchup bottle. Well, the ingredient list today is significantly different than when I was little. Right. Which means it's not like super comparable. Like, yes, that's like, that was the start of.
Do you know where they got that? Are you familiar with the history of our insecticides?
No, I'm just, oh no, I know where it came from.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
But you should definitely.
Yeah. So
talk about it.
The chemical agriculture came from excess chemicals of war. So World War II ended and they had all of these excess chemicals and they put it on our food. That's how it started. Now it's evolved. It's gotten way more scientific. Doesn't mean it's gotten better, but
no, it hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse. That's what I mean is like we look back in like the old like times.
Atrazine. Yeah. Atrazine that turns male frogs female. And now we've got these weird psychological issues with all kinds of stuff.
It's all kinds of stuff. It's a, I can't know, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, but maltodextrose or
maltodextrose.
Yes, it's in there. It's within that
in that family.
But there's all of these ingredients that have been developed to where if you're trying to cut this one thing out, like if this is like a sugar-free snack or no sugar added, but they actually need something to like bind, or to still help it be what it is, so the consumer is they enjoy it, right? Yeah. Well, then you come to find out like these ingredients that are synthetic and created in order to do a job because they take something else out is so much worse for you than just having sugar.
Yep.
And it's not going to be listed on there under like a carbohydrate or a sugar or whatever, but it's an ingredient. And I would butcher it if I try to like actually give you the crossover or whatever, but it's like that is worse for you. Even if you're just thinking about like calories in, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is worse for you than if something did have sugar in it. But you don't even, you just can't trust anything. And so we have to be reading labels. And over the course of generations, they've gotten better at developing things that consumers want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much that like they developed this chemical and consumers want the chemical, no. But they got better at making chemicals that can add in this or this or this, and it like you can't taste it, or it binds it together more, but it's not a carb, fat, or protein, and
or like food coloring to make it more appealing, and yet that's causing problems. Working and running the slaughterhouse, we did jerkies and snack sticks, and we were trying to clean up. We were cleaning up the ingredients, cleaning up the ingredients, and the challenge was to find something that somebody would make for us that didn't include anti-caking agents. Because everything has raw ingredients. Everybody adds an anti-caking agent because of convenience and so forth. When you receive it, can't be clumped up and chunky. But what is that anti-caking agent doing to our microgut biomes and all these other things that we're completely unaware of?
Yeah, it's like it makes the job easier for the person that's like packing it and trying to get like, trying to increase the quantity that they have available. How fast can we pump it out? It makes it easier. I can do more. Oh, that helped me so much because now I took my jerky operation from this to this. And it's like, I understand, the rationale around it. And I would almost even think too, period of time where you never would have even thought to second guess it.
Right.
That's the thing too. And I say all this, and I wanted to make the comment kind of about like just connecting the fact that they've, ingredients and more additives and more chemicals and more things have become more prominent today, or, like what they're using for like fertilizers and herbicide and insecticide and all these things. Yes, there was a time where they were using it way back then, Victory Gardens. And you go back even further to learn about when that was brought to pioneers, to people to use. And then you have the pressure to mass produce because we're feeding the world. It's like there's so many things, all the nuances as to how we got to where we are. And I've heard people make comments. It's kind of, I guess, talking down in a way to like your parents' generation, or, they didn't set you up for success. And it's almost as if you're trying to take the responsibility and like find somewhere to put the blame. Maybe it's subconsciously to make you feel better about the fact that you had nothing to do with where we are. The reality is even our grandparents and our parents, they technically didn't have anything to do with why we are where we are.
Nope.
It's like there's no point in being like them.
Yeah.
They were doing it.
Or
the conversation is like, well, they had it back then. It's like, have you learned nothing? It doesn't matter. They had it back then.
Yeah.
We have it still today. It's way worse. And again, it's a product of your environment. It's all the different, whatever pressures it is that's going to create the situation. Again, it's not our fault, but it's our responsibility.
Exactly.
So let's stop bitching about it and let's make a change. And let's work together.
Responsibility for it. Yeah, exactly. Work together. Collaboration. That's the thing, is throughout history, when the American people rally together, that's when we make things change. I mean, look at how the election went. We rallied.
The American people not waiting for the special acronym organizations to do it for us.
Yep.
And I think that if we could promote and help in any way, just helping shift the mindset of the collective to just that, like, we don't need them. Yeah. We never did. In fact, I grew up hearing from my dad all the time, we need less federal government. We need less federal government. Like, all it does is screw things up here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if we all know we need less federal government, it's like you want less federal government when it comes to like paying taxes. Taxes are horrible. They suck, right? A lot of crap in there.
Especially learning about where it's all going from Doge doing their work. Holy
exactly.
Lord.
But it's like if we need less federal government when it comes to things like how you earn money and how you pay for things and the cost of things, then why in the world would you ever want to then have the mindset that like, well, they're going to they'll get you food. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you don't like them when they're taking taxes from you, but now all of a sudden you're like, I mean, I could grow my own food, but honestly,
they got my back.
They're going to figure it out. I know they will.
Yeah.
It's like they've never actually figured it out. They've just pivoted, and our lives, the life never got better, just slowly got worse. And
well, so we're here to help. That's what From the Farm exists for, fromthefarm.org. And, we're starting by connecting with your local farmers and ranchers, but we're going to be really leaning into the education side to bring people into the fold. And one thing I am really encouraged about, and I know you are as well, is this rise of homesteading, the interest of people to get back to their roots and knowing how to do these things. And we really need it. We have less than 800,000 ranchers, a total of 1.8 million farms in the country. We cannot rely on the I'll use the word traditional farmer and rancher to feed us all. There's not anymore. They're gone. We have 320 million people and we've got 1.8 million of them. And the majority of those that are growing the food are big ag companies. Now, some of them are family run operations, but a lot of times they're controlled by subsidies or what they have to grow and things like that. But we need to take responsibility as a culture and a community to get back to that and start learning how to preserve again, learning how to have our own victory gardens, and really be there to preserve, to support our neighbors so that we can make it out of whatever may or may not be coming. Again, better to have and not need than to need and not have.
Yeah.
So.
And with that said, it's like, this isn't like, it's not a conversation that's meant to be like, we're not these people that we're sticking with the idea that real bad times are coming. Do we believe bad times are coming? Yeah. Because historically that's what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if the real bad doesn't feel real, it doesn't like look real bad because we don't, we're not living in the times of our grandparents where when it was bad, it was like, man, it was like, it looked colder, it looked drier, it looked like, yes, it may not look real bad, but if you can't get baby formula and you have a baby because the supply chain, if you can't get toilet paper, I mean, you'll be fine. You can find a leaf outside. But like, if you can't get things that are what you use, food, other, medicine, whatever, to survive and take care of your family and thrive, it may not look the way, it looked in the past. Looked objectively almost looked worse, but we're, more advanced now and technological. So it may not look that way, but it will feel that way. And it won't be easier today to get the things and find the things that you need because we live in a more technological time. Yeah. Because it objectively looks easier and it's nicer and more comfortable. No, it will just be it'll almost be more frustrating because you never expected it.
Yes.
We live in a time where you would never expect it. We expect that every generation, it's like you become better. We get further away from being poor farmers. Mm-hmm. And it's like, ooh, but you're also getting like further away from ever being able to take care of yourself if you needed to.
Yeah.
And we just don't think about that because we haven't been put in a position where that is the conversation.
Yep.
But there's a good chance that that's in our future. And if it's not, wonderful.
Yeah.
But if it is,
if it's not, God has shown us his mercy. That's what I gotta say.
It's like, we don't want it to be doom and gloom. We don't want people to run out of food. We don't want people to not be able to get the things that they need. No,
we don't like famine.
No, famine.
Like
we don't want that to happen. But what we do want is collectively, even if you don't think it's doom and gloom in the future, or you do, we do want healthy food. We do want to continue to produce healthy food. We want soil that is going to produce healthy food.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be healthier, so that is like, it's very important to us that we preserve the farmers and ranchers that we have still today. We keep them.
Yep.
And the only way we do that, like if we take all of the other stuff aside, right? Like we take if all we're really focused on is like just the health, and we're not even talking about supply chain, then our best bet at being healthy long term and knowing that like the future generations will have the opportunity to get quality product that wasn't made in a lab, wasn't thrown together through all these different ingredients they've like, been able to come up with and synthesize and create. It's having a farmer and a rancher, a dairyman, cottage producers. It's having those people that do the work and they care about the land and they're good stewards, and they, it's high quality, nutrient dense items. And the only way we keep them, because if you think that, there will still be farmers and ranchers. Well, yeah, but they might all be owned by one person, and it will be mass production, which we know was a huge step forward in the downfall of our food system. Yeah. So we don't need mass production. We need smaller operations. We need community gardens. We need Victory Gardens. We need local producers. It's bringing it back to small communities that help one another, and that in and of itself is just going to give everyone an opportunity to be healthier and to put things in their body that's going to help them be healthier and stronger and live longer, and not the other way around. So if you want to look at it that way from the farm, it is so important that we keep the farmers and the ranchers and food producers that small, medium operations, and the big ones too. We need to have like from the farm as an option for farmers and ranchers, or anyone that has maybe through years past been kind of pulled into a more industrialized operation, because that's where the business was, and that was the best play for them at the time or for their family. There's no reason to like, again, try and label anybody. No.
Yeah. It's not either or, it's yes. And then yes. we the people should be able to just know so that we can choose. Yeah. You may not care about the other stuff. Okay, great. Now you got options. We have so many people to feed. It's not either or, it's yes. And.
Or it's like, and we know producers that they're in like the commodity market, or they're in the more, the big scale ag. Yeah. And they would love to not be.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy transition.
No.
It's not an easy fix. And so through conversations with us, we are building this. So this will be the soft place for you to fall. Yeah. When you want to, when it's running in a way where you can see that like, okay, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit, muddy waters, this transition from this sort of business down to this one, but I really want out of this one and I want that one. And it's like, we are here for you, and we're going to be here for you for when you can make that transition. And it just adds those, it basically, we get to collect more food producers, and then we work together as a community by paying attention to where we're buying our food, stop going to a regular grocery store, go directly to the producer, shake the hand that feeds you. And by doing that, we help them thrive.
Yeah.
And their family. And what that means for us is generationally, we get to eat high quality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, we talk about it all the time, but it's just, it's so important. And it's very hard for me to understand people that either want to deny it, or they just don't find it yet of like enough importance for it to be a reason why they would, look for producers in their area, or kind of start changing their eating habits or changing their purchasing habits. So even if you're not able to find somebody nearby, well, by you adjusting where you buy things, even if you're ordering online from a small producer, you are helping. You don't have to be putting your hands in the dirt. You don't have to be milking the cow. You don't have to be processing. You don't have to be, you don't have to be moving cows every day or checking water or checking fence line. You don't have to be like weeding the garden. You don't have to do any of that. And maybe you're in an area where it's like, you just can't because you live in the city or wherever it is. Or maybe you just don't want to, but you do want healthy food. By changing some purchasing habits and finding different ways to spend your money on the food that you eat, you are helping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like tremendously.
Yeah, the amount of ranchers I talk to that, I mean, if you have a rancher that raises, let's say 30 head of cows a year, like cows that he can then process, right? So they've got their mama cows and they have 30 babies, they raise them, then they sell them to you. It would change their entire future to have a family's name on the name of every ear tag that just rotated every year. And your family would be able to count on it every year. And so when the store shelves go empty, you don't even have to worry, because your relationship with Curtis or Brad or Casey or anybody, you're like, man, glad I don't have to worry about that. Brad's got his next order of beef on his way. I don't even have to worry. And Brad knows I've got his back because we're going to order next year. And now he knows he's got people for his beef to go to and doesn't have to play the market game, doesn't have to worry about where they're going to go at the right exact time when they're finished and when they've got to get through the processor, out the freezer, and to the customer. So let me throw this up real quick. Somebody asked, thanks for all you do. My zip code is 81001. Sounds like a Utah zip code maybe. Can you recommend a source for vegetables and butchered meat? So Liz, if you go to fromthefarm.org, whether you set up an account or not, you can search your area and it'll bring up the people around you. Or if you go to the website, scroll down just a little bit, and in the bottom, you'll see view the map, and you can open the map and zoom out and see where everybody's at. So we really appreciate you guys listening and supporting. We have succeeded and crossed over $314,000 raised in our WeFunder crowdfunding campaign. It is not, you don't invest for a t-shirt, you invest and actually get return on that as we succeed. And all the details are on our WeFunder. I'm going to throw that up real quick if you're interested. So if you go to wefunder.com/fromthefarm, that's where you can join the crowdfunding. We've committed that we're never selling this thing. And so your support in this is what's helping us develop the software, iterate the software, and do the marketing to help continue to grow. So we appreciate all that support. We've served hundreds of consumers around the nation, and I think we're at 68 farmers and ranchers throughout the country now. So again, we're so grateful for everybody's support, helping us get this going and just rallying and being a part of the solution. We're just building a new sandbox, and the more people that want to play in our sandbox, the better it gets. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
If COVID showed us anything, it's how fragile our food supply chain really is.
I would hear the news talking about empty store shelves in the city, no meat. But yet I'm driving through the country and I see cattle standing in the field that a customer could buy. My name's AJ Richards, raised in St. George, Utah. My family are 5 generations of ranchers.
I'm Brooke Ants. Today it can be incredibly difficult to be a farmer or rancher, even for people that have been doing it generationally. And it's not because of the work, but it's actually pressures from the big 4.
4 companies control 85% of our food supply chain. And in many cases, it's very clear that they're buying off politicians.
And if North Korea or China's Great Leap Forward have taught us anything, a centralized food supply can accidentally or intentionally kill a lot of people. Luckily, it's not all doom and gloom.
What's missing is a competitive marketplace. So I'm thinking about these unsold cows, and I just had this aha moment. What if somebody built a website similar to Airbnb, but instead of short-term rentals, it highlighted and connected you with local farmers and ranchers so that we could actually go right to the producer?
So fromthefarm.org is a digital farmers market connecting you, the customer, with local farmers and ranchers who produce meat, vegetables, fruit, and dairy. Plus, you can pick it up locally, and many producers even have shipping options.
The most important value of decentralization is food sovereignty. The ability for you as a sovereign individual to have the right to buy your food and source it where you choose. If you know the name of the producer growing it, you have now insulated yourself from not having it, like when the store shelves were empty.
We the people can take back control of our food. Invest in your family, invest in From the Farm.
From the Farm helps families access food with more nutrition than what you're going to find at the grocery store.
Studies have shown repeatedly that locally farmed produce is more nutritionally rich than factory farmed food. It just is. You can't beat it.
Because these small family farmers and ranchers are growing it how they were taught by their grandparents and great-grandparents, which is quality over quantity, because they're putting their personal name on that product, not hidden behind some massive corporate logo.
Hormones, performance-enhancing drugs, and chemical treatments, including carbon monoxide, are just some of the things these corporations do to increase profits and improve shelf life, not your life.
Meanwhile, up to 40% of your meat's nutritional value is lost in the process. There's also the environmental impact from all the mileage your food racks up. Apples, 1,556 miles. Lettuce, 2,055 miles. And beef, a staggering 2,874 miles, all resulting in unnecessary pollution across the country. But when you buy from local growers, these numbers turn into these numbers.
Not only is shopping from the farm decreasing pollution and reclaiming your food sovereignty, but you are also getting a superior product. Parallel food economies or buying local is the future of food.
I was actually the first person to invest in from the farm. I was 100% all in. I've started businesses. I've had some really cool opportunities in the entertainment industry and the sporting world, but getting healthy food into more Americans' hands is more important than anything I've ever done.
So right now we've assembled our team. We've got some amazing people on board to execute and make this happen. Like Isaac Barlow, who knows how to scale tech companies in the blue collar space because he's done it before. Now we're in the process of raising the funding from you guys to help us scale this to the next level. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision, it's an investment in our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.